Hello and welcome to the Shacknews Chattycast, the podcast that's letting in 15,000 fans. I'm one of your hosts, Steve Watts.
If we only had that many, I'm your other host, Brian Carr. And Steve, as always, today's Chattycast brought to you by our good friends at audible.com. Go there, get your free audiobook, 30-day free trial, audibletrial.com/chattycast.
To be fair, the tickets to the Chattycast are prohibitively expensive. I mean, like hundreds of dollars. It's ridiculous.
You got to increase the price because the demand is just so low.
The demand is low, yeah. To recoup costs, each ticket costs $1 million.
Yeah.
We'll break
it. You're wondering where does it? It's all there on the screen. It's all there on the screen.
So every week we pick a big topic, post about it in the Chatty, and then we talk about it in detail with your comments. Hence Chattycast. Today's guest, hardly even a guest anymore, let's be honest. back again as our semi-regular third chair is David Craddock. Hey, David.
Hey, we're talking about E3, which in my mind is synonymous with Zelda. So let's talk about Zelda, you guys.
Let's talk about Zelda for an hour. Okay, that's actually on my now playing, which we'll get to in a second. David's right. We are talking about E3. We're talking about sort of a look back at E3. We're in that weird era right now that there's not news. There is news. There's leaks coming out. There's pre-seeded announcements, but it's not the torrent of news from E3. So we're, instead of talking about sort of like looking forward to this E3, we're talking about the past. This week is going to be about talking about our E3 memories. And then in a future show, as we get a little closer to the show, we'll talk about like looking forward to E3 predictions, wild speculation and all that fun stuff. But before we get to all that stuff, let's talk about what we're playing. And David, let's go with you first. What are you playing lately?
Breath of the Wild, as always and forever.
Have you finished Breath of the Wild?
No, and I don't plan to, and I love it. It's glorious.
Never actually see the ending of this game.
Maybe I never will. I don't know. No, it talk this to death, but this Breath of the Wild might be the pinnacle of journey over destination style games. I'm just still having so much fun exploring. I think I've taken down 2 divine beasts, so I'm 50% of the way there. But I do not plan to track down every one of the 900 Korok cities. I think I'll skip that. I rolled a new Dark Souls 3 character. I'm building a pure pyromancer. The Dark Souls games are flexible enough that you can choose one weapon or I did a bow only build a while back in a couple of the games, which is probably one of the harder ones to roll in. This one, now I'm just running around, which is fun.
Brian, it sounded like you were going to say something or other about Zelda a second ago.
Yeah, I was going to say I finished the game, and honestly, I'm going to be completely honest. This is me. I'm not towing the Shacknews line here. All of that stuff to collect and to get better armor and better weapons really doesn't matter that much for the end game. I'm going to be completely honest. Like, I stopped. I got the Master Sword. I got some semi-decent armor. I went and I beat the final boss. It was really, if you've got the healing items, it's really not a big deal.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I've made
it's kind of mandatory for it to be easy. I'll say that.
I made kind of a beeline for the ending recently because I like you, David. I was spending a lot of time like exploring the world, and it's been in such like fits and starts and so sort of delayed by other games that I either have to play or that just come out and I feel some obligation to be familiar with, that I was like, I gotta finish a game eventually. I need to like actually finish a video game at some point. And so I started sort of like critical pathing Zelda. I got the Master Sword this week, which is probably my favorite like Master Sword sequence since maybe ever. But definitely since a link to the past, at least, because it's really well done. And so now I'm on my 4th. Well, I'm about to get to my 4th Divine Beast, and I think I'm just gonna like sort of make a beeline for the end, and then after I finish it, I'll see how much I feel like continuing with the exploration.
The
it is a game that you can get
too. They help.
Yeah. It is a game that like you can get lost in, very easily, and I just. Had to sort of make the conscious decision to not do that anymore.
Well, I mean, I think that's one of the ways I love the that Breath of the Wild has flipped the script. Before, like pre-Breath of the Wild, 90% of Zelda games were mandatory, 10% optional. Now it's like 90% of Breath of the Wild is completely optional. You only have to do a little bit. Like, I love chasing down the armor upgrades and different sets because it's fun. But Brian's totally right. Like, you look at speedrunners, they go in there naked. You know, it's the only thing separating them from Ganon is a very thin undergarment,
and that's a way that's sort of a way that the game illustrates its progression through gameplay, where it's like, no, you literally start naked, like, and by the end you're just like decked out in armor, and you've got like, you know, 40 different bows like strapped to your back, and the freaking Master Sword, you know. I know that the Master Sword has like a cooldown time. I haven't actually hit it yet. I've just been like using it as my sword.
It's about
like
10 minutes.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
I've got like enough backup weapons that if it breaks, or, you know, whatever you would call it, needs to recharge, I can use them. But I'm just going to use this thing as like my main thing now. And
if the Master Sword's battery dies,
if it gets the charging signal on it,
you're just running all over looking for a USB port.
Yeah, because I have these, like, you know, whenever you finish a divine beast, you get these like special weapons that it's like, oh, this is the one that was used by the hero of our people or whatever. And I always felt bad using those because they would break, and I was like, oh man, like you gave me this like 100-year-old like heirloom and I broke it.
Counter argument, maybe it should have been built better.
Maybe you're right.
Well,
they're relying on this kid to go out and do everything. Give him some better gear.
And the other thing I love about the heroes that you meet in the divine beasts is, you know, I got stuck on one of the phase, couldn't quite figure out how to beat it. And the hero, you know, after a few minutes, he says, "Try this," and I'm like, "What? You died? Why are you trying to help me? You didn't do it."
Why couldn't you have done this? Why couldn't you? Why couldn't you rotate the camel?
Yeah.
I do think it's funny. Actually, just last night, I had finished the camel, you know, dungeon. You know, months old spoilers. I feel like we can say like minor spoilers now. And you're not allowed into the Gerudo town with your, even if you've like helped save their people, like you're not allowed into the Gerudo town because it was the part of the quest where it's like, go back and report to the chief, you know. So like I got thrown out of town. And then I'm just standing in front of the guard who threw me out, and I'm like changing my clothes into the lady clothes, like in front of this person. Like I just picture Link like just like taking off his pants and like slipping on these other pants and then just walking right in. Anyway, that was a random aside. Anything else you've been up to lately, David?
No, just mostly work-related stuff. Those are the games. Well, actually, I've also been playing The Surge. I wrote a pre-review for
that's right.
Shacknews.
Sci-fi Dark Souls.
Yeah, it's basically sci-fi Souls, and I like it a lot. I'm starting to see some of the warts. A lot of the environments are samey, and so are the enemies. And The Surge also does this. I look at it as a layer of strategy. Every weapon has combo attacks, and once you start a combo, you actually can't interrupt it. So you kind of run the risk of, if you're doing some 3-hit smash, that kind of sitting there just punching each other in the face. So I look at it as, you know, it's kind of a risk reward. Do you want to go for the combo and more damage, or you just want to chip away? Whereas Dark Souls lets you interrupt every move, kind of like a fighting game. I happen to like that, but I mean, otherwise, you know, the environments and enemies are getting kind of samey. But the core gameplay.
Bloodborne? I feel like this is a thing that I've heard about before in Souls likes. Is it Bloodborne that is like once you hit a button, you're committed, and that's part of the strategy of it?
No, Bloodborne actually has a deeper combo system. Combos in Dark Souls games are like light. The attack animations don't change just because you're doing a certain sequence, whereas Bloodborne has more traditional fighting game combos. And there's some, you know, like heavier weapons have slower swings that take long, in theory, interrupt any move. Whereas the Surge, so there's one where like you elbow a guy and then do a backhand. You cannot stop that sequence after, say, the elbow if you do part. And I like that. Develop my play style where I've started rushing in, walloping a dude with a big weapon, and then you can kind of quickly backpedal out. And I like that a lot, but apparently it's becoming a sticking point with some players.
Yeah. So Brian and I know that we're sharing a game in our now playing, but I'll mention something, another thing or two, real quick first. I'm still plugging away at Fire Emblem Echoes Shadow of. That is a grindy ass game. I don't know. That is way more grindy than Fire Emblem tends to be. So it's been kind of hard to like motivate myself to be like, okay, I need to go do like 10 more of these scrub battles. And I also played Destiny at that Destiny event last week, which, you know, technically it is a thing that I played, even though it was for like 10 minutes. And and I think this tone sort of came through in my preview that I wrote up for it, but it's like that is a Destiny game. Like it feels like if you release an expansion for Destiny, it could be that. Like it's like that changes some powers, gives you some new powers, obviously gives you some new gear. So they aren't really changing the core of what Destiny is. And my first instinct when I saw the presentation was like, well, that's kind of disappointing because they were making such a big point of, shrouding it in secrecy and, implying that it was such a huge change from before that they had to like take away all of your stuff and nothing would transfer over. And it's like, oh, okay, that sounds like they're going to make some huge changes. And it's like, nope, not really. It's Destiny again. You're playing more Destiny. and that's a good thing in some ways because Destiny is a good game and it had some obvious problems that it sounds like they're addressing. But at the same time, it's not a massive change, which I expect is kind of what Destiny fans want. But I don't know how much more of a wide net they're going to catch. Like who was interested in Destiny, but like having to go into orbit to hot planets was what really like threw them off and they didn't want to play it, like I don't think that audience is very large. Like the people that dug the shooting and the style of it but didn't like some of the very minor tweaks that they're making. So it seems like it's going to be like more Destiny. Hopefully what I'm kind of hoping for is that it's more of a like a platform that they can build on in a fuller way than they did before, because it seems like the first Destiny they were really hampered by something about the internal structure, the internal like mechanisms of it. They couldn't do that much,
They kind of rebooted that game midway through development, right? Like the game that we got was nowhere near what they were originally setting out to make.
Yeah, which is why you had to read about the story on the internet.
Right, and I think this time they at least have a more realistic goal in mind. So I think the game will probably feel more cohesive as a result, even if it's not particularly ambitious. And honestly, I'm not sure there's much you need to really overhaul in Destiny in the first place. I think by the time Taken King came out, you had a pretty competent game.
Yeah,
I mean, it's at least a little bit more competent in what it was.
You're like, it's like, hey, do you want Halo shooting but with loot? And it's like, yes, that's a potent package. That's pretty good.
But do you think that Destiny 2, based on the 10 minutes you've played so far, will appeal to people like me who were interested in the first one but completely shunned it because they're elitist? Like, I'm legitimately interested in Destiny 2 because it's on a platform I want to play it on, and I'm wondering if Bungie kind of wants to keep that the same but refined feel.
To correct the record slightly, I played like 3 or 4, I think, different demos, each of which probably lasted 10 minutes. So I played a little bit. I played a little bit more than 10 minutes, but not that much.
Right. 43 and a half minutes. Got it. All right.
So basically, it feels really good as a PC game. I played the campaign level. During the presentation they showed basically what is the first level where the city is being assaulted. So 2 of the demos that I played were that on console and PC. And PC is a lot faster. I sort of pressed the PC lead that they had me interview on like, hey, do you need to make like balance changes and stuff, because like the speed of this thing is like Doom speed, like the ability to
that's actually something I wondered, because I played no floaty, and I get that because that style of movement is better suited to a controller, but I didn't want that with a mouse and keyboard. It wouldn't feel right.
Yeah, and he was pointing out like, on console you expect a certain kind of like inertia.
Right.
But on PC people kind of expect to be able to like kind of slip around very easily, and it does feel like that. So it's going to feel, I think, pretty different on PC on the whole. And yeah, I mean, if they're making the improvements that it seems like they're making, it seems like it is the type of game that could appeal to an elitist like you, who who may have shunned the first one.
Okay. Because I'm actually very interested in it, because it is on PC. Like, I'm very into this.
I mean, the things that they need to repair from Destiny 1 that this presentation didn't touch on is pretty much just the progression ramp. You know, like the going into orbit thing was like a minor quibble that was kind of annoying, and the like teaming up for raids is like, okay, that's a cool quality of life feature. The main thing that sort of turned me off about Destiny eventually was it became a grind. Like, even as somebody who played Taken King, all of the story content in Taken King, I played it and then I was like, that was a cool reminder of why I liked Destiny, and then I went off of it for a while. Then when they released the final piece of DLC that I don't even remember the name of, I couldn't do anything. Even having played the main game and the Taken King and, you know, here and there some other little bits of DLC, I couldn't do anything in the final one. It was like, you need a higher light level. And I was like, well, I can either grind for 10 hours to get my light level up, or I can ignore this and never play it. And that's what I ended up doing. So I think they need to, that's something they didn't touch on. I think they probably need to adopt something more like, you know, Elder Scrolls Online or something like that has like the, you know, no matter what level you can do anything. We just scale it to you. That would resolve a lot of the issue that I had there. Anyway, Brian.
I don't know. As a champion of the people, as a champion of the common man, I'm excited for Destiny.
Yeah, you're our normie here. Speaking of loot, though, the game that you've been playing a lot has some loot.
Boy, doesn't it? Hold on, let me change hats here for a second. Let's see.
Oh wait, I need to see this.
Oh. All right, what do you want to know?
That's right, I want to know what you think of Injustice 2.
I think it's a great game. So let me preface everything I'm going to say with a couple caveats. Number one, it is a NetherRealm Studios game. Number two, it is a superhero game. Number three, it has RPG mechanics. And number four, it has loot drops that let you dress your superheroes up in fun costumes. You should take everything I'm about to say with a gigantic grain of salt.
Yeah, I was about to say. There's no way that you have any objective view of this game.
So, just like I said, take everything with a grain of salt, but I think it is the best game so far this year.
Wow.
What?
That's
there it
something.
Is.
What? Of the year? The whole year?
So
how far? Wait. Let me ask a couple of follow-up questions.
This is partially me stirring the pot a little bit.
I've gotten like I have started playing it as well, like just barely started. And I started the story campaign. I've heard a lot of people talking about how the story is like the best story NetherRealm's done. And like a new standard for fighting game stories and things like that. I haven't seen a lot of it yet. How far are you, and what do you think of the story?
I finished the first chapter. I did the Batman chapter because, of course, they start with Batman. So I'll get into this later, but I have some issues with the Batman presence in this game. I
do like. Well, just as a side note to the story, I don't have a lot of thoughts on the story, but I do like that NetherRealm is given license to sort of be a little bit silly with the DC universe, and to make meta commentary, because they have a moment near the beginning. This is a very extremely minor spoiler, but they have a moment near the beginning where like Batman and Robin are sort of like arguing over whether killing is justified, basically spurred by Superman, and then like Batman just like beats the crap out of a bunch of guards. And Robin's like, oh, so like severe head trauma is okay? And it's like, yes, that's a good point. That doesn't often get brought up.
So like I was talking about last week, I feel like, yes, there are some questionable choices they make with how they write certain characters. I mean, you can argue that Superman is like a despotic villain, is inherently sort of against what Superman is. But a lot of that's alternate universe stuff. I do think that they fundamentally get what makes these characters fun, and also some of the peccadillos of the characters too, and that's a key example of that. So that's probably like that right away is a major point in the game's favor. You can tell the people who wrote this game get it. Having said, I mean, like I said, there are some issues I have with the writing. I'm not a huge fan of the fact that, again, I stand by what I said last week. I think it's an alternate universe, and anybody who gets really upset about it should probably remember that.
That said, let me get really upset about that.
That said, as someone who is a Wonder Woman fan, it is kind of a bummer that when we are a week away from the release of her movie, the only playable version of Wonder Woman in this game right now is an unlikable sociopath. I'm not a huge fan of that. I think I'm hoping that we'll get like a premiere skin that will turn her into like the Gal Gadot version, will hopefully be nicer. But that's my main objection.
Because in the story, she goes along with the Superman regime.
She is basically, in a lot of ways, the Lady Macbeth of the story. Yeah.
Huh. All right.
That's too bad.
So, it is. Yeah. It's a little too bad. I mean, like, I think that she's a character that historically has been, very inconsistently written, and a lot of writers have not got what makes her interesting. And so you see, and so she's falling into the same trap a lot of writers, I would say, in the early to mid 2000s did, where they made her very aggressive and militaristic and that sort of thing. That said, she's really fun to play as, so whatever. But as far as the game itself, my God, there is so much to do in this game. And I don't know where to start. So I'll start first off by saying that you could probably never play this game online and you would still get like 70 plus hours out of it. The multiverse content, like where you just get like these, essentially it's like a replacement of the challenge towers from the last Mortal Kombat, except they're less lame. And so you can go in like, all right, so here's a mission where Constantine is helping you. And if you can flick the right stick up and he'll summon some like eldritch fire to burn your enemies. That's pretty great. Amanda Waller has locked onto your location, is firing missiles to eradicate any and all evidence of your presence there. And now some missiles will just fly in periodically and damage you and your opponent. That's pretty cool. Here's one where the world tilts. Like, it's that kind of like
and
weird
the premise,
NetherRealm stuff that I really dig.
The premise of the multiverse stuff is just like, hey, we can detect threats across universes, and so go deal with them. But the funny thing is, how that manifests itself is like, here's this character you recognize, but they're wearing a silly hat.
Yeah. but see, Steve, that's exactly what I want. Like, it's the Spock goatee kind of thing. Like, that's Green Arrow, but he's wearing a trucker cap. Okay, like, that's exactly what I want.
I fought Harley Quinn, and she was wearing some kind of beanie, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, why not? Like, and that's the thing. This is a goofy, as serious and grim as it looks aesthetically. It is a goofy game in a lot of respects, and I really, which is again very much the NetherRealm sort of style. Like, like Mortal Kombat has a lot of blood and gore, and
but it's also been goofy.
Stuff. But it's super goofy. Yeah, it's heavily inspired by like schlockiness. You can tell. Like some of the clash dialogue when characters go in like clash in the middle of a fight is super funny. You have like Cyborg telling Supergirl that her friend request was denied. You have Harley Quinn asking, and this is bluer than I normally get on the Chattycast. So, but again, it's a quote. She's asking the Flash if when he farts it makes it sonic boom. That's funny.
That's funny.
That's really good. That's like fundamentally getting those characters. And that's what I can't, like, I really just enjoy the way they're kind of playing in that sandbox and adding a lot of personality to it. So that's kind of stuff's cool. But if you're a longtime listener to the Chattycast, you will also know that I have a very big affinity. I really love games that can play themselves. Guess what? This game can play itself. So a big part
so 10 out of 10.
Yeah, exactly. A big part of this game is grinding for loot and levels, right? And that can get, it's fun to do, but sometimes you just want to like level a character up and get the achievement or get whatever for them without necessarily playing. Like, I love Swamp Thing as a character. I can't really get into him in terms of playing him in the game, but I could level him up to level 20 by going in, programming him to say, okay, you're going to be more likely to do grapples, you're more likely to do combos, you're going to be more likely to try to do evasions. Like, I can basically program the AI, give him a gear loadout, and then have him fight not only other people's AI monsters, but also have him actually programmed to go through like the arcade mode multiverse. So it's like, all right, I could play 20 fights as Swamp Thing, or I could just have him do that and just periodically hit X to go to the next fight while I'm watching a movie or something. That's really good because I think it shows, it's sort of like NetherRealm kind of saying, hey, we've got this really deep, in-depth thing where you can spend a lot of time on it, but we know that not everybody who's playing this is going to be able to do that. Here's kind of this middle-of-the-road solution that people who don't want to do it don't have to. People who do want to take advantage of it can. And it's not going to necessarily damage your enjoyment of the game either way.
Yeah.
So that's a really cool thing they added. So I had Wonder Woman go through.
The perfect game to play while also playing Switch.
Exactly. So there's a lot of stuff I like in there. The net code is great. The character animations. Well, there's been a lot of like complaints on the internet about the character animations not looking right. They look fine. I don't know. People get really hung up on on stuff like this because it's not Capcom or it's not SNK or whatever. But the animation,
you look like commiserate with what you would expect from Mortal Kombat and Injustice 1. Like,
and I'm used to it at this point. Like, you know what you're getting. And the facial expressions, though, the facial animation is scary good. Like, they really stepped up their game on this one. And that's the thing I love about NetherRealm is they take the criticism to heart. Okay.
I heard it observed somewhere. I forget where, but I heard it observed somewhere that like the faces look so real that they look silly wearing masks in the same way that actual actors look silly wearing masks.
and that's the thing. It's like NetherRealm had been taken to the court, and rightfully so. They had been dragged for like Mortal Kombat 9 and Injustice for having really sketchy character models, really bad faces. Like the women had really over-exaggerated proportions and that sort of thing. So Mortal Kombat 10, they go in, they fix that. They make the faces better, they make the proportions more realistic, and in Injustice, they just keep going down that road. There are not many developers, I feel, that are willing to actually go and fundamentally change what they're doing when they know that like a criticism is legitimate. And I think that they deserve a lot of credit for that. They're really trying to make their games more accessible and inviting to everybody. So that's I think it's just, I don't know, it's such a great game, and I'm really happy with it.
I want to hit some of our big topic here, our E3 stuff, but I have one quick observation. From my very limited experience of Injustice. The funny thing is, the way they fight is very much like they all know that the other one can't die, and like if you can imagine a fight where both parties. Where like both parties know that the other one is immortal, they would just go like balls out, like crazy, trying to kill you, quote unquote, knowing that it can't happen. Because Wonder Woman, who like I feel like if Batman symbolizes determination and Superman is hope, then Wonder Woman is like mercy. Like that's sort of
mercy, peace,
the quality that I interpret from her. Her special move, she throws a sword into a guy's chest. She throws it like a dart, and it just like sticks.
Well, okay, like let's be real.
The first time I triggered that, I was like, Jesus Christ.
See, that's not even the worst one. So Harley Quinn's special is literally she sicks her pet hyenas on you. They tear you apart. It cuts to the other guy's like vision, so you see this all from like second person perspective, and like you're like getting ripped apart by dogs. You see blood, and then she comes up and smashes you full force in the face with a baseball bat and knocks you out for a second. They're not messing around.
It's like it's when you have a PG-13, but you're like it's a hard PG-13. Like this is a hard T.
It's a hard T. It's like honestly, like I said, I was going to say something to this, but again, that's like that sociopath Wonder Woman, right? It kind of fits that version of the character.
Yeah.
I'm really hung up on that because I feel like Wonder Woman aligning with an evil-ish Superman would kind of be like Cap and Iron Man being on the same side in Civil War. Like
it's kind of a problem that Wonder Woman...
as characters, they seem like they're ideally suited to be counterpoints to one another. Especially like Batman is a counterpoint to pseudo counterpoint, whereas Wonder Woman has the powers. She's the one who I would think should be on the opposite side of the fence.
Putting him in check because she has
with Superman
basically his suite of powers. Yeah. I mean, like it's sort of the problem that a lot of writing of Wonder Woman gets wrong, which is like treating her as like an accessory of Superman. Like she's like and Superman's girlfriend, like.
Now, to be fair, I did read the New 52 series that was like Superman and Wonder Woman, where it's like about their relationship and all that. It was fun. I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, she is not like, and that's the thing is like if I have one knock against how they handled it, Superman melting Billy Batson's face in the first game was pretty bad. I'm not gonna sugarcoat that, But Wonder Woman, I feel, especially got done dirty by this whole alternate universe thing. And again, like I said, it's minor because it is an alternate universe. I don't think it damages her character, but I just sort of wish I could play as a nice version of it.
It just feels like a missed opportunity.
I just want to find a nice girl.
But there's two more quick things I want to get out. Like, number one, I think they can solve that because the premiere skins are actually not only change the physical appearance of the character, but also their dialogue. So you can make a version of Wonder Woman that's closer to like her old school, like Linda Carter version, or maybe the Gal Gadot version, and they could be nice and not sociopathic.
I mean, Gal Gadot, like, that's the obvious, like, you know.
They'd be stupid not to do that. I mean, that's a cool costume and it's movie tie-in. I mean, that's easy. I would pay for that.
Synergy, everyone. Synergy.
Yeah, no question. And two, like, getting back to your point about the idea about how the superhero fights work, I think what sets this apart from something like Marvel versus Capcom, which I love, don't get me wrong, I love the Marvel versus Capcom series. But to me, it feels like a lot of those fights just degenerate into, here's a bunch of guys just throwing lasers at each other. Hooray! And like that's true to an extent, but I feel like Injustice feels more like an actual, like, straight up superhero brawl, where it's like, okay, Supergirl's gonna punch you to the side of the screen.
There's a physicality to it.
You're gonna grab a car, smash him into it. Like you're using the entire physicality and environment in a way that superhero fights usually do. And that's what I think I really dig about Injustice as a comics fan, is it feels a lot like a superhero fight.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll shut up about it, but I'll say more about it later, I'm sure.
You'll shut up about your game of the year.
Listen, I will tell you, I'm not happy about everything. I think Red Hood is a mistake. I think them putting Mortal Kombat characters in is a mistake.
Just in general, Red Hood is a mistake.
Red Hood is a mistake. But I am still very excited to see where this game goes and how it develops, because I have a lot of faith in this team to make it special.
So let's talk about our big topic this week. E3 is right around the corner. We're getting the usual spate of leaks and preceded announcements. We're going to talk about one of those leaks a little later in Newsy Bits. Let me tell you something.
Is it the one I think it is?
But it almost definitely is. But before we look into the future of the industry, we are going to take a look at the past. The E3 has sort of a long, rich, weird history that I described as it went from a relatively small, like, tech retailer show where, like, the Babbages would show up into, like, kind of a press bonanza, and now it's in this weird amorphous state where it's not a fan show yet, but it's not a fan show. It's it's in a strange place right now. So I wanted to talk about sort of how it's changed over the years, and also just like our fondest or least fond memories of E3. And the one that came to mind almost immediately for me is also one that a chatty member pointed out. He said his only E3 memory, Red Shack said, only E3 memory is Mr. Caffeine. When you talk about, like, bad E3 presentations, that is the one that comes to, like, the top of the list every single time. Something about Ubisoft had, like, a run of, like, weird snark.
Terrible.
Didn't they have Joel McHale one year?
They did. I think they had him multiple years, like 2 or 3 years.
I honestly think he had no interest in being there.
He was the one who. The funny thing was, he was the one who was presenting the year that Ubisoft did their weird laser tag thing. And I remember him, like, not even bothering to pretend that this was cool. Like, he was like visibly, like, very clearly, like, telling the audience, like, this looks super lame, but I have to recite these lines, so I'm going to do it in the most lifeless way that I can.
Killed that presentation. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It was pretty bad. But Mr. Caffeine, I think, is like stands head and shoulders above as, like, Ubisoft trying to be funny and not doing it. Lately they've transitioned more to Aisha Tyler, who is genuinely, I think, very funny and charming.
Yeah, and she generally wants to be there.
Sometimes maybe lays it on a little thick with the nerd shout outs, but it's like, hey, that's kind of your job, whatever, you're the host.
I will not hear a word against Aisha
Tyler. But she's got gigantic hands. Anyway. She doesn't actually. That's an Archer joke.
No.
Anyway.
Archer's so good.
So with that, with Red Shack sort of kicking us off with that one, what are you guys' memories? What do you think of when you think of E3s in the past?
My fondest E3. Let me preface this by saying that I love the Nintendo Directs. I think Nintendo was ahead of the curve there and kind of branching off from E3 and doing its own customized thing. But could you imagine if last year's Breath of the Wild reveal had been live
Oh man,
sort of response as Twilight Princess. That to me,
people would freak out.
And I still watch that press conference. I still get cheers when the crowd just went crazy. That is my favorite E3 memory. I loved that.
Yeah, I mean,
Twilight Princess is kind of lame.
Nintendo has made a point of doing E3, like you said, they were ahead of the curve with sort of withdrawing from the press conference thing and doing their own sort of private thing. But they had a weirdness that was very endearing, and they also had they had Reggie in like prime Reggie years, where he, nowadays he jokes about his own persona, nowadays. Mm-hmm. But when he first came on the scene, it was the "I'm here to kick ass" personality.
Yes,
and that was the persona he projected when he was on stage at E3. It was a very weirdly powerful presence of a salesman, basically, because that's kind of what he is. Brian, you look like you have thoughts.
So I don't know if this really counts as a memory per se. But I feel like if we're going to talk about all-time E3 moments, you have to go back to the first one, which had 3 pretty amazing moments. And by amazing, I mean they were all absolutely devastating to Sega.
Oh, yeah.
So this is 1995, I think, right?
Yeah.
And this and Sega thought they had this, Nintendo had their platform, their N64 was delayed. Sony had something, but they weren't really, they weren't that worried about it. But
that's going to go anywhere.
Yeah, their strategy is we're going to get out ahead of everybody else, and we're going to go ahead and just we're going to launch the Saturn at E3. Theoretically, a great plan.
Yeah.
Right. And if you know anything about game history, you know where this goes. They launched it. The retailers weren't ready. It completely fell. It was basically, I don't want to say dead on arrival, but pretty close to it.
You gathered all the retailers in the country in one spot and then told them to do something with their stores that were thousands of miles away.
Yep. And not only that, they launched $3.99 or something like that, or $4.99, some ridiculous price. And then Sony came out and they had that famous one-word press conference with, I think, the director of marketing for Sony, where he just comes out and says $2.99, and the place just goes crazy.
Mic drop. Yeah.
And then to top that off, their whole thing was thought they were going to be competing with Nintendo, and Nintendo was going to be doomed because they didn't have their next platform out. But then Nintendo unveils Donkey Kong Country, basically saying, "Yo, we can do those graphics without having to do a whole new system." Poor Sega. We're talking about momentous shifts in the game industry. We're talking about things that change the landscape for years to come.
Whippersnappers don't understand that. Yeah. Whippersnappers don't understand that for years Nintendo versus Sega was the platform war.
Yeah. And Sony wasn't also around. They were just kind of
that E3 kind of killed it. Yeah. You mentioned Sony. I want to mention Sony in a couple of respects too.
Yeah.
One, they really have a history of just taking it to another company, because the first press conference that I attended in person was the Sony conference that came immediately after the Microsoft conference for the Xbox One that people kind of hated, and it was they were delivering punchlines, they were it was like a roast of the Xbox, but they never actually, I think they actually never said Xbox, but they were very clearly punctuating everything they said with they're doing this, we're doing this, just over and over and over again. It was
that was a good one.
It was like watching Rope-a-Dope. It was it was mean.
And I think that was the year where they did the game sharing video, right?
Yes, yeah. That came out I think a couple days after their presentation. They just
20-second little tutorial on how to share
Adam
games.
Boyes was there at E3, so they're let's film a funny little thing and release it on the internet to sort of tweak Microsoft, and it took off. But yeah. It was brutal. And one more quick thing in relation to Sony, for my money, I love Reggie, I love Miyamoto. They're all funny, goofy guys. I loved Iwata when he would present. But for my money, just the most polished but also relatable, friendly E3 presenter ever was Jack Tretton.
Mm-hmm.
He was so good consistently all the time. And the new guy who took over for him is also pretty good. So I think there's just something about the Sony culture that like they know how to find those kinds of people. But like I miss Jack. Like every year when E3 comes, I'm like I miss Jack. Like I'm not even like a Sony fanboy. I'm more of a Nintendo fanboy. But like just in terms of just like just a friendly, like warm hug of a presentation giver was Jack Tretton.
Brian, you were going to say something?
I probably I don't know. Like I'm kind of drawing a blank and like thinking about like what other, because honestly, after a while, E3 kind of becomes this just cacophony of noise and advertising.
It's hard to keep things straight from year to year.
It really
definitely
is. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely things you point out recently. I think last year them showing off God of War was really, really cool.
Yeah.
I think that I think we also have to acknowledge some of the funny stuff, like Microsoft making a splash when they first announced the Xbox was a pretty big deal. But then also the Kinect kind of failing when they first announced that was pretty cool. But I guess we're talking about like really kind of questionable, cringy moments. I feel like the Beatles Rock Band announcement
that was pretty bad. Yeah,
I mean, and I love the Beatles. Paul and Ringo are probably my two favorites, and you could just tell they were really not that interested in being there either. I love that. Here's the thing that cracks me about E3 every time is that the video game industry is in a position where it is making more money than most other entertainment industries. And there's we can talk about like the mathematics of that if you want, but they have a lot of cultural cachet. You're seeing references to the Nintendo Switch on Saturday Night Live. You're seeing all this stuff. They are a huge presence, and yet they absolutely crave the legitimacy that comes with TV and movie stars.
Validate us.
Yeah. So we're gonna go get the guy from the whatever show. We're gonna bring him on stage, and he's gonna make everything.
This star
cool.
from the CW.
Yeah.
They tend to aim for like B tier.
It never goes well. Didn't they have Norman Reedus on?
Yeah, I mean he's in a trailer, like the straight up.
Yeah, I thought they actually had him in the trailer event too. But
speaking of celebrity cameos, there was a time there. I don't know if this is something they still do, but there was a time there that every year's Madden and or FIFA presentation would just bring on some football or soccer player and have them like exchange like, "Oh, you really got me there, Peter," like awkward dialogue. And it never went well. And like the third or fourth time it happened, it was like, guys, why are you still doing this? This is never like believable or fun.
Well, and they got obscene amounts of money, and just so like, and you got to like, and honestly, if I were those celebrities or those athletes, I would not turn down an easy payday to come on stage and just talk about it.
Hey, you want to get a free pass to this thing where you can play a bunch of games and get like the God King treatment because everyone will be so in awe of you coming.
I mean, yeah.
So like, why wouldn't you?
I would take that deal right now.
So another chatty comment. I'm going to actually read a couple here because they're all together. One random winner actually misrecalled and said he was recalling the Space World 2000, which was Nintendo's sort of we're not at E3, but we're going to do another thing near E3 thing. Yeah. But he said at the 2000 Space World, they wowed everyone with their GameCube demo reel. He said that one always sticks out to him. Link has individual fingers, which stuck out to him. And Samus Aran got out of her ship. Oh my god! But then after he realized that was not E3, that was Space World, he recalled a couple other things. One of which was the Smash Brothers for Wii U trailer, where Iwata and Reggie were fighting.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was a pretty great one. I mean, it was like a game reveal trailer that like 90% of it was not the game at all.
Let's be honest, like Smash Brothers at E3 in general has historically been pretty good. Like the Brawl reveal is pretty great too.
And this other one that he mentioned is not, it wasn't from a press conference. It was when they had transferred to doing the Nintendo Directs. And he just said, "I'll always remember you, Iwata," and he posted a link to the puppets. The Nintendo puppets, which was so adorable. And like in hindsight, it's actually kind of sad because it's like, oh, that's because Iwata like wasn't actually feeling well at the time, so like knowing that in hindsight, it sort of puts a sad pallor over that. But it was like such a cute thing, like the three like most recognizable faces of Nintendo getting.
It was perfect Nintendo. Their quirkiness and sense of humor and willing to just change things up.
Yeah.
I actually have to say that as much as I do love the directs. I don't know if this is really a moment, Matt, of Sony's conference last trailer after trailer after trailer, no fluff, no business talking points.
That's true.
It was kind of the perfect answer to a lot of complaints that like, hey, these press conferences are awkward. You're killing time between real trailers, which is why we're tuning in the first place. I just really like it.
The complaint about Sony for years was like, okay, they're going to have some cool trailers at the start and at the end, and in the middle they're going to have charts. Because there was like several years that they just had a bunch of charts, and it's like, guys, you're
charts and JPEGs. That's what the kids want.
Yeah.
It's like they were reporting things that like the media like us we would report on because it was useful data, but it's like there are so many better ways to release that than like making it part of your stage show.
Yeah.
So yeah, last year's was Sony just being like, we're gonna get out of the way of the games. Here's just like 90 minutes of trailers, just back to back.
And that definitely comes from a place of they had been taking their lumps at that point. Remember the PlayStation 3 announcement? My God.
Yeah,
the second job. Yeah,
like some of the worst.
Absolutely.
Some of the worst like E3 flubs are from that one specific thing: the Batarang controller, the Ridge Racer, the giant enemy crab. It's like the conference that launched 1,000 memes or something. It's terrible.
To this day, it hasn't stopped.
People still reference it.
Let it die.
I mean, it's sort of like they were the underdog because of that conference. They were the underdog during the PlayStation 3 area. Now they've sort of like regained their ground, and Xbox is sort of not doing as well as PlayStation. So we sort of see like the two titans switching places every so often, but it's hard to see any other platform war that was as much defined by the press conference as that one.
Well, no, wait a minute. In 2013, I think Microsoft and Sony both revealed the Xbox One and PS4 slate.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, and then I don't know. I remember Microsoft's E3 press conference as well as the week of E3 following being a misstep for them too. Like, no, you can't play used games. Oh, online, we have a console for you. Like that the hits just kept coming.
Yeah,
it was bad.
On a weirdly like personal note, this is like probably the strangest thing, but we were still owned by GameFly at the time. Shacknews was owned by GameFly. And so, like, my livelihood depended on GameFly staying healthy. So as Xbox was like, we're going to kill rental games, I was like, well, shit. Like, I'm so screwed if that happens. And then, of course, it didn't happen because people hated it. But yeah.
That also gave us another great Sony moment where I don't remember who it was, but like one guy made a very strong point of like letting his friend borrow his game, and they were like, "Wow, how novel!"
Pantomiming that. It was Adam Boyes and somebody.
Yeah, that was that little 20-second video that I just watched that again before the show. It's super fun.
Yeah, it was great.
It was pretty bad.
I will say the one thing, we talked a lot about how great their show was last year, Sony's, and how it was nothing but trailers. But that was my problem. It was nothing but trailers for stuff that wasn't coming out for a long time.
That's true. Yeah. There was a lot of like coming in 2018 or later.
Yeah, like people like, oh my God, Shenmue, oh my God, Final Fantasy 7. We're not going to see those games for at least another 3 or 4 years. Yeah. Like that, and I think that's kind of why, like
I mean, that's something that
Microsoft been about, just like broken promises and smoke and mirrors.
Microsoft has actually gotten smarter about that because they faced a similar criticism, I think, maybe 4 years ago, and then since then they have made sure to like have a segment where they specifically say everything you're about to see is coming this year.
Yeah.
They put a mark on it to like date it and make it stand out, which is pretty smart.
Personally, I dig Nintendo's strategy of, this is coming out in like 4 weeks.
Yeah, Nintendo went with the ultra short, or like this is out today. Go to the eShop right now.
Well, that's gonna happen this year, right? I think is it Splatoon 2 or ARMS that releases like the week of the E3.
Yeah.
I've got that on pre-order, so yeah, it's ARMS.
So none of the reviews will be out in time.
Come on, man. Well, we'll have like the global test punch this weekend.
All right.
Yeah, so you have a chance to check it out beforehand at least. But.
So I have one more quick memory to share before we move on to a newsy bit or two, unless you guys have anything else. But Wii Music is the kind of game that, I mean, like it was stupid, but like, hear me out. Miyamoto's goofiness pulled that demo off in a way that Ravi Drums did not. like him pretending to play the flute was like charming and endearing, and then they tried to get like cool with it, and it didn't work. You know?
No.
And I feel like that might have been instructive for Nintendo to be like, no, we don't need to be cool. We need to be weird. That's our bread and butter. Yeah. Anyway, any other E3 thoughts from you guys?
I don't know. I don't know if you either of you attended the 2007 show, the E3 Media Summit.
I have never been to an E3, so.
It was so I've only been there. Last year was my third time. The time before that was in 2007, where it wasn't at the convention center. It was at select locations, like around. I don't know.
Like the airport hangars.
Yeah, and that was it better, but it the attendance was like way down because that was the whole point. They kept it at like people, whereas this year we're adding 10 to 15,000 people.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
No specific memory of it other than wow, that was weird.
That was weird going to airplane hangars and such. The Destiny event was an airplane hangar. Apparently, airplane hangars get very hot when you stuff 1,000 people in them. I didn't know that.
Oh man, it's good. You guys have fun this year because cramming that many more people into that space, and a lot of them have very fast and loose rules when it comes to personal hygiene. I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's just say I'm happy to be watching it on TV. So
we're gonna our booth is gonna strategically have air fresheners all around it. Anyway, let's move on to we have to talk about at least one newsy bit, and you guys know this is coming. There was a leaked piece of key art this week. This was a rumor that popped up, I think, a week or two ago, and it was like that sounds too crazy to be true. But this week,
well, go ahead.
A leaked key art basically confirmed that it's true because it just looked too professional to be like no fan made that, you know. And I use the term professional loosely. So what I'm driving at is Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle. Yeah. It's a Mario and Rabbids crossover, which is confusing. Like just
they couldn't get the minions, so
like that sentence itself is confusing. A Mario and Rabbids crossover. It's a turn-based RPG, as far as I understand, and the key art shows Rabbids dressed up as Mario characters. You have Luigi Rabbid looking just kind of goofy and his tongue's hanging out. You've got sort of Mario Rabbid somewhere in the background, I think. Yoshi is firing a gun and looks like he's from the Bronx or something. Like, I don't know.
To be fair, they're all firing guns. Like,
yeah, they are all firing guns. They
have blaster arms.
I forgot to mention further confounding details. They all have like arm cannons.
But what about the Peach Rabbid? That's the one that got us.
That was going to be my big finish. The Peach Rabbid is taking a sexy selfie, which bothers me on a I don't know. It's like
I think it's
on a fundamental level. I'm like,
funny.
sexiness does not exist in the Mario universe. Like
it's because it's a rabbit doing it that it's funny, I think. And I don't even think the rabbits are funny, but that does make them laugh.
So here, okay, I can let you guys like.
You forgot to talk about the fact that we have Luigi like doing like a Gears of War like.
Oh, that's true. He's doing like a vault jump.
Over a block.
So we have very little to go on this so far. We have like some leaked details based on what people are saying about it. We have this leaked key art.
And can I say before we go any further, David, just what a fantastic article you wrote on this.
Yeah, that was the product of like just probably a 20-minute just like all of us in the room going like, what the fuck?
and I love that you managed to fit at least 3 or 4 wrestling references in there, and I can only assume that was a personal shout out to me. Thank you.
It was. But here's the thing: I'm also gonna prevent Steve from going further. Steve, we have very little to go on. I will make a guarantee. I will put money on the line that there's not much else.
We've already seen everything it has.
So
here's my main question, and in all seriousness, like this is a weird like existential scream of a game, and when when the news first leaked, we were like, why is Mario like dating down. Like, that's really weird. Like, Mario, you can do better, you know? And that's still my thought. Like, hey,
Mario has low self-esteem. He doesn't
there
think
there are better partnerships you could be striking. But I'm curious who's developing. Who is actually developing this game? Because if it is Nintendo and they're borrowing the Rabbids characters, I have much more faith in it than if it is Ubisoft and they're borrowing the Mario characters. Because I like Ubisoft games. I don't mean to like shit on Ubisoft completely, but I have never...
I'm just shitting on the Rabbids. That's
yes,
all.
Exactly. I'm shitting all over the Rabbids. I've never liked a Rabbids game. And I don't trust them to be like stewards of the Mario franchise, you know?
Mm-hmm. So here, okay, I'm gonna take a different perspective on this. I'm kind of looking forward to this game.
To be fair, Brian, there are a lot of things that you like because they are dumb.
Yes, absolutely. I am an
like
avowed
stupidity
fan.
is not a bug; it's a feature for you.
No, I'm an avowed fan of terrible things, and this is so terrible that I feel like it has to be good. So here's my thing. Like, okay, so I'm gonna be again. I'm just dropping bombs left and right here. I do not like the Paper Mario games. I think that the Mario RPG, the idea of Mario-based RPGs are great. Super Mario RPGs are my favorite games of all time. I really have liked a lot of the Mario and Luigi games, but a lot of it's going to come down to what kind of RPG is this?
Yeah.
Like if it's something more like Mario and Luigi or Super Mario RPG, I could see myself being very into that.
And I will agree to an extent. The Paper Mario games have been very inconsistent. So just saying Nintendo developing a Mario RPG isn't necessarily like a vote of confidence if it is Nintendo doing it. Thousand Year Door, I still think was great, but that was probably like the last like truly great Mario RPG or Paper Mario. Mm-hmm. But I think that like this is a game that if it's anything short of like a garbage fire, reviews will be like, you know, like reviews will be like surprisingly positive because it's not absolute trash. Like the I don't know if this is like another official piece of key art or what, but there was an image circulating yesterday in all of this craziness that said like phase 1 surprise at E3, which is not happening. But then it was like phase 2 convince media and gamers, and it's like when you have to say that, you know, like you're going in knowing that people are going to be like, "What the hell is this?"
Oh, okay. I got to make this even better. Nintendo comes out, starts up their E3 press conference saying that Metroid fans will be excited to know that Samus Aran is coming back as a rabbit skin in Mario.
Oh my god! People would burn the place to the ground.
Yeah.
See,
I'm at the point where I'm so nihilistic about everything when it comes to this industry. Like, I just want to see
you just want to see the world burn.
Happen. I want the worst possible thing happen.
You know, I am also a fan of dumb things. Of dumb things. I love the Jean-Claude Van Damme movies. Okay, I'm down. I'm in. But this is like to kind of address Steve's question. Also, I don't see Nintendo developing this because they do have the Super Mario RPG and Mario Luigi series. Yeah, I don't think they need a third prong here. Second, if you look at they are spinning off their franchises more. We got Hyrule Warriors, and that was not developed by Nintendo. I think this will be a Ubisoft joint, but I guess it also just perplexes.
It feels like a Ubisoft joint in the same way that like the Sonic crossover games is like Sega joints,
right?
You know?
Sure, and like again, Nintendo doesn't really need to take this on, and it's also not every Mario game begins with the super. With left off here is very telling in the same way that Hyrule Warriors does not begin with The Legend of Zelda. This is Nintendo saying like, this is not canon if it sucks.
Yeah,
we didn't say it was super. Come on.
No, but it's like there's good dumb and then there's just dumb. I just of all the mashups.
Well, here's I have a pet theory of how this came about.
I have a postmodern approach to dumb, David. I don't think there is a difference anymore.
But what are you saying with the dumb? Okay, I have like an honestly like. Nintendo, the Switch is a pretty big success. I think it's fair to say. It's at least out of the block, it's doing very well. I don't think Nintendo knew that it was going to be doing this well.
Nope.
And I am wondering if this was the deal to get Ubisoft to bring some games to the Switch. If they were like,
without question, without question.
If they were like, okay, you want, Assassin's Creed Origins or whatever, like, I don't even know if that one's coming, but you want like Ubisoft, because Ubisoft has always jumped in with both feet on every Nintendo platform. They've always been like, let's do this thing. Yes, new technology, let's go for it. This time they've been weirdly reticent about it. I'm wondering if this was like the price. Like before Nintendo was sure, they struck this deal where they're like, if you want Ubisoft stuff, if you want us to support your platform that may fail, you have to let us borrow your Mario characters and make this weirdo thing.
I think it should have been Metroid Freedom Force Rabbids. Or Metroid Federation Force Rabbids, sorry. No disrespect intended to Freedom Force, which is amazing. But I don't know. Like it cracks me up. I'm sorry. Like if you can't at least enjoy the lunacy of this, I think that it's time to get out of games.
I totally enjoy the lunacy. This is like
you don't have to.
I'm making a beeline for that booth. I'll be like, I'll make time for Mario Odyssey later.
You have to appreciate the audacity of this.
No, I think you're right. I'm not like upset or angry about this. Yeah. I'm just kind of why? Like, convince me. Whatever. Yeah, but why? Where did this come from? Why?
It's not anger. It's like confoundment. I think.
I'm in the same boat, but I'm more like, instead of being like, all right, convince you, I'm more like, go on.
I guess, and Brian will get this. I think I made this point in the article. You know how WWE has a habit of going after stars whose shine has worn off? Mm-hmm. This is what that feels like. Like the Rayman Raving Rabbids was just became a dumping ground for mini games. Mm-hmm. First Rayman Rabbids was pretty fun. I liked it. My wife and I played it, but I feel like that was the last time the Rabbids were really a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
don't know.
But here's my prediction.
Okay.
We're gonna see a renaissance, a Rabbid renaissance because of this game. 2018, 2019, it's the year of the Rabbid, baby. They're back in a big way.
Here's my question. What if it's like not just not bad, but like really good? Like what?
That's the thing. That's what I'm trying to say.
If it's like, we've got a Game of the Year contender on our hands, and that means that we have to give our Game of the Year award to a thing with Rabbids in the title.
I want nothing more than to be a part of those conversations. just to have ears in that room, because man. So it's Breath of the Wild,
I don't know,
or Mario X Rabbids.
I'm very curious to know. I mean, like, if you ask me like which game I am most curious about for E3, I'd probably say Mario Odyssey, but like this is like kind of a close second, because I want to know like literally anything else about it, because
Show me the footage. What is this?
It's such a weird thing. Like, tell me something else.
So I am actually open-minded to it. But Brian, let me put it to you this way. And Steve and I were having this conversation earlier because I'm brainstorming another piece I want to write. When you take two superheroes to team up, you do it because they're clearly defined characters with defined traits, and you want to see how they'll coexist. Mm-hmm. What traits No, I'm done. That's it. That's the question. Like, what are the Rabbids really? What do they bring to the table in this team up?
Yeah,
I don't. That's what I want to know. I'm open to finding out, but that's what I want to know.
My feeling is, and this is me just completely just spouting off, is I think Nintendo might have really wanted the Minions. And this is the next best thing.
I feel like the thing that the Rabbids bring to the table is like they're wacky and non sequitur. I'm intentionally avoiding using the word crazy because Susan Arndt, astutely pointed out, like that's kind of ableist and offensive, but like that's the marketing term that they would use to describe this. It's like, oh, they're so crazy, I feel like to have a personality type that bounces off of that well, you need something a little more jaded than Mario, because Mario isn't a character he's not a character that's gonna roll his eyes at a rabbit being stupid, like that's not a thing that Mario would do. That's a thing that like Sonic would do.
Metroid X Rabbids.
Like if you paired Rabbids with Sonic, you could see like the Rabbid doing something kind of like stupid and self-harming in some way, where that they like bash themselves on the head with a hammer or like some sort of slapstick, and Sonic's just like rolls his eyes and makes a snarky comment. That's something that would fit the character. Sure. Mario's not going to do that. Like what's Mario's reaction going to be other than like, what the?
see, Mario's a good dude. He's going to be like, well, these guys clearly are not from
Please stop doing that.
They're lost. I'm going to help them.
I am concerned
about you. I'm a good person.
Prediction. Mario tolerates the rabbits. Luigi loves them. Luigi just embraces them.
Oh, that would be fun. That'd be a fun twist.
That would be great. We're writing a great story.
There we go. Most anticipated game of E3.
I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, like this is. I think.
No. I'm only half kidding. Like I am. Yeah. I'm really not. Like I said, I'm not upset about it. I'm just kind of befuddled, and I am willing to hear more.
See, if Nintendo drops that, gives us more details on Mario Odyssey, and maybe finally Detective Pikachu in the West, that's it. Like that's game. That's
the show of E3. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, the only reaction I can really see the Mushroom Kingdom characters having to the rabbits is like a shrug, like a playful shrug, and that punchline works once. Like, how do you have an entire game where they're just constantly shrugging?
So one thing I haven't played a lot of one thing I do like about them is that Nintendo's humor it kind of takes center stage in those games. They're very quirky. They break the fourth wall, and but a lot of times the other characters won't even respond to them. I think that could work in this game. I think that if you have this key art shows Rabbids portraying Mario characters. Yeah. If this is like a zany, goofy version of Mario, that might be kind of funny. It could be more self-aware.
It's the DC multiverse. In another universe, all of the Mario characters are rabbits.
Sure. Like, I think that could work, but that goes back to Steve's point. Like, I would trust Nintendo's sense of humor. I don't really know anything about Ubisoft's sense of humor because the rabbits are kind of just blah, like running around screaming, which is only funny for a few seconds to me.
Yeah. I'm willing to be convinced, but I want to know more.
But I am skeptical.
Yes. We practically did like an entire segment on the rabbits thing.
It's already working. It's working.
Here's the thing. I want this to be so successful that we start seeing Rabbids cross over with every other franchise.
Yeah, Rabbids,
Rabbids X, Destiny X,
Rabbids X Souls.
Yeah.
There you go.
Assassin's Creed.
They just can't die. Like here's the thing about the Rabbids. I came to this realization yesterday when we were talking about it. The Rabbids, their character trait is earlier when I talked about how the Injustice universe is what immortals would actually fight each other like, where they know the other one can't die. Rabbids are like if you knew that you couldn't die. It's like Bill Murray's character in Groundhog Day after like 1,000 years. Like they don't care about harming themselves or each other at all.
So they're like funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Exactly.
Okay.
So that was an unexpectedly rich vein of discussion. I want to talk about one more very quick story that is less happy. But the Hitman studio got sold, and IO just yesterday announced layoffs, which is we can all just like have a quick comment on this, but it's baffling to me that like the Hitman that everyone kind of universally agrees like they got it right. Square Enix is like, yeah, no thanks, we're good.
Mm-hmm.
I can connect this to our earlier conversation about. A lot of people said, I'm surprised Destiny 2 is more of Destiny 1. And I think that decision, as well as the layoffs at IO, despite putting out at least a critically successful Hitman game, goes to show you that no publisher, not even Activision, not Square Enix, is willing to take too big of a hit because they just can't.
Mm-hmm.
AAA development, I think, shrinking even smaller, which is sad.
And Square has weirdly high standards for its first properties. I mean, there was the Tomb Raider thing.
Consider also that they've had to pretty much use those games to try to make back some pretty heavy investment costs on things like Final Fantasy 15 and that sort of thing.
Right.
So
yeah,
their whole standard for what's acceptable for sales and what isn't is kind of out of whack.
Yeah,
right.
So Brian, I know you might have to run to inspire young minds. But we can do some quick plugs. You've got your own podcast now.
Yeah, Serious Fun. It is up. You can go listen to it. We have 3 episodes, so you can listen to all of those. And
good job, by the way, finding a title that like sounds like it would have been taken, but as far as I can tell, it wasn't.
Yeah, I know. I was kind of surprised too. There are shows that have episodes called Serious Fun, but none actually called Serious Fun themselves. So if you want to check that out, go to my Twitter. It's in my profile. You can also look me up just by typing in Serious Fun into iTunes or to SoundCloud or wherever it is you get your.
You'll know because you'll see that face
Yeah.
rendered as a cartoon. So, David, you mentioned you have an article in the works. Another one that went up yesterday, expressing your bafflement over the rabbits thing. What else is going on?
You know what? I'm just gonna I'm pushing all my chips into the plug Mario plus. Like now I'm thinking. I'm working like the part 2 of the strategy. Convince media. We are carrying it out.
Brian did it. Brian convinced you. He's been a sleeper agent for Ubisoft the whole time.
Yeah, as you can tell, I'm just got that.
No, let's see. Nothing really right now. Shacknews is gearing up for E3, and I presume we'll be discussing those plans at a later date. So just kind of
most of my time has been spent on that, so I don't have a lot of
right
to make. I am going to be working on something cool in the relatively near future that should be coming out probably next week or so. And also, I can actually say this. I didn't realize that I was allowed to talk about it, but Ubisoft let us know. I'm allowed to say that I attended an event for Far Cry 5, and that the preview will be going up on Friday. Now that they've started teasing it, I can actually say that. So yeah, keep an eye out on Friday.
A lot of consternation around the key art for that already. I can see.
Yeah, I can see. I mean, I can't talk too much about it, but just based purely on the key art, what the key art reveals, I can see how it would cause reactions.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about it next week.
Yeah, definitely. So, all right, let's get out of here. Thank you for listening. Rate us on iTunes. Until next week, we will see you on Chatty.